Hello good humans of Shorts Brewing Company, my name is Joe Short. You may remember me from videos such as airplane water ski, spruce tip picking, and Midwest gravy. Well, today we're going to do a video for internal education purposes about how to properly pour a beer. And it's going to go way beyond that, and we're going to reestablish some standards, and as always, part of our customer service hospitality philosophy is to work backwards from the consumer experience. So I'm going to walk you through this step by step so we can reestablish our baseline and hone in the skills for how we pour beer, because beer is what we do here. From tenured team members to brand new folks, we're all going to be on the same page. So let's get started. First things first, and I'm sure everyone always does this because you're constantly washing your hands, because you're constantly picking stuff up, you're constantly doing things with plates and silverware and cups and brooms and all that fun stuff that goes along with the job. So I always like to make sure my hands are always clean all the time. All the time. Oh yeah. And these things kind of suck. They get little shreds of paper all over. So I'm always trying to be very intentional about if I drop a little chunk, I pick it up. Or just try to pull like a pro. All right, hands are clean. Next step. Next step, after you've got nice clean hands, is to make sure you have a nice clean glass. We use a steam sanitation here at Shorts, which means we don't use any chemical sanitation, which helps to make sure our glasses are nice and squeaky clean. And when they're squeaky clean, they hold lacing and head. And what lacing is the white film that trickles down the glass as you drink it, and it sticks to the glass. And that's a good indication that our glassware is clean. Sometimes that's not the case, so we may need to put in a maintenance request or check in with management to make sure that our dishwashers have proper detergent and all the other stuff. Now that we have our clean glass, we're going to pour a beer. But it doesn't start with just pouring a beer. It starts with how we grab the glass. My rule of thumb is to make sure that I'm probably less than halfway under where somebody would put their face or mouth, which means I'm going to grab it towards the bottom. And the next thing everyone should know is that we have a 2-finger pour policy here. And that means that your first finger is kind of the rule of thumb of how not to break the plane of a faucet. So what we don't want to do is break the plane of this finger. We want to leave a finger of space at the highest point of where this glass is going to be. If we're up and over the faucet, we broke the plane, and that's a no-no. So really what we want to do is start holding the glass toward the bottom, do a 45-degree angle, but not break the plane of the faucet, and we're going to drop that beer down this edge. It's going to flow like so. Let's do something like Bel Air Brown. We're going to get that bad boy flowing right down that edge, and as the beer fills up, we're going to stop it. But as you can see, being the first pour of the day, this beer's foaming over a little bit. So we're going to keep some beer coming in that same angle until we've got a finger of foam, which is where the second finger comes in, right? As always, when we work backwards from the consumer experience, the last thing we want to do is hand somebody a beer that's got beer on the outside, because their hand is going to touch the beer, then they're going to have beer on their hand. So what I like to do, whether you're using the soda gun with water or the rinse bottle, you just rinse the side of the beer off, the beer glass, again holding the bottom of the glass. And now you've got yourself a finger of foam, a perfectly clean glass of beer, and you're holding it from the bottom, and you're giving it to somebody who is so thirsty and excited to have the Shorts brew, professionally poured by all you folks out there. And that's how we're going to enhance the consumer experience. All right, because cleanliness is next to godliness, and there are certain guidelines that we have kind of loosely established as far as one, for me personally, if if we're gonna clean up a beer off of a surface with a dry towel, then that surface also has to be cleaned up with a sanitized towel. So let's just say, with our overpour here, we've got a little beer on the counter. In this situation, we're probably going to use a squeegee, but let's just say it's not here, it's on the bar. The bar is where a lot of consumers come up, and we don't want them hanging out with their freaking body in the beer on the counter, right? It's, of course, our natural instinct to grab a dry towel, clean that beer up. But now all I have is a dried beer surface here. And I'm still gonna have residue all over my body if I'm hanging out on the bar that just got wiped up with a dry towel. It's not clean at this point, it's just removed. So, because we have sanitizer buckets at every station, my recommendation, actually the policy that we're actually establishing right now, is to make sure that these surfaces are always clean, especially from the consumer facing part. So we've got our quat sanitizer, we've got a clean towel. I always like to make sure that I monitor the health and the cleanliness of these towels, rotate them frequently throughout our shift. And now we have a nice clean surface for all of our friends coming up to have beers. If they're looking at the menu, whatever, they're not gonna have these beer spots all over their arms or shirts or whatever it might be. So thanks for doing it. I love our over-ambitious nature and our desire to build in efficiency when we are in the throes of tons of beer orders coming our way. And it might be enticing to try to pour 2 beers at one time. And the only beers that you can actually pour 2 at a time is if one of them is a nitro stout, because you can actually leave that under the faucet and let it rip while you're pouring another one. The reason why we do not pour 2 beers at a time here is because the only way to do that is you have to grab the top of the glass, because that's where consumers put their mouths and faces, and then you also have to touch the faucet. Those are 2 rule no-nos. So as these things fill up, now you've got an issue where, bam, we got potential beer spillage, and we still have to rinse these things off. So in the grand scheme of things, if it's shaving seconds, I don't think it's worth, one, the contamination that we just put all over this faucet by doing this. The other reason why that's important to keep that finger of foam space is that we've got Mug Club members, we've got acrylic drinkware that we're using, where people are coming up for refills. And I don't think that we're washing these in between. So if somebody comes up with a Mug Club and they're getting a refill, last thing we want to do is touch that Mug Club mouth to this faucet and then go try to pour 2 beers at a time on that same faucet, because now we're cross-pollinating germs and stuff, which is pretty gross. So throughout the afternoon, if you've got a quiet pour day, and especially when we're amidst fly season, you can use Quat. This is located at all bars. Quat is a no-rinse sanitizer. So I wouldn't spray that out before I had to pour another beer per se, but if we haven't poured a beer in a while, it's definitely not going to hurt to have a little Quat. If you just sprayed one, for instance, like so, and all of a sudden you get a beer order for that one, what I would do first is rinse it out with a little beer, and then start over. Here we are, a little cup here. So let's just say that beer's pouring super good, but I can't get a finger of foam. So what I do, and this is kind of against the rules because we all know that the beer faucet valve only works 2 ways. It's open or closed. But if you go halfway, you can actually strip some of that CO2 out and create a little foam there. And that's going to give you your finger of foam that we want to give to each one of our customers. Granted, admittedly, it's not a perfect science. Some beers foam better than others. Beers that have specialty ingredients like Nicey, where there may be oils in citrus or peppercorn, or summer heat that might have jalapeno or other elements in there. Those do subdue the foam ability, and that's okay. We just have to make sure that we're not filling everything to the brim, so we have to be super careful in bringing this over, spilling it, and then also the customer grabs a super full beer and that's probably spilling it all over the floor. Again, this all dovetails into the sanitation world. As we pour beer, there's a lot of outlying areas that we need to be cognizant of. So, finger foam it is. All right, let's do a couple don'ts. Hands too high. Glass is breaking the finger plane. So don't fill it up too high. Don't not rinse the glass. And please, pretty please, don't bring beers like this anywhere. This is just a really bad idea. So if you are at the point where you're over 2 beers, because what you can do is bring 2 properly poured beers grabbed from the proper place and deliver them. But when you get to the 3-point marker, we need to be using the tray. The tray is good for lots of reasons. One, let's just pretend these are properly poured beers. We're gonna look like pros. And then 2, now we've got a vessel to bring pre-bus items back. So if you are not familiar with this, if you're a new person or somebody kind of just getting reestablished with our policies and protocols around here, full hands in, full hands out. That's how we roll. So please bring a tray if you're bringing more than 2 beverages to a table or a customer. Another don't for you. So we talked about dry towels cleaning up beer before. Well, you're gonna have these on your hands because you just cleaned up a bunch of beer, and then you're just getting railed. So you got beer orders coming out your ears. So what we don't want to do is take our gross hands, grab the tops of 2 cups and try to pour 2 beers at once, because that's faster. What that does is it touches the cup to the faucet, breaks the 1 finger plane, also gets beer all over the faucet. Assuming that we can get the amount of foam correct, it doesn't pour over, then we still got to rinse these bad boys off. So there's just a lot going wrong there. 1, this isn't sanitized. Our hands aren't clean at that point because we just grabbed a gross beer-covered towel. We've got the tops of a glass where a consumer would put their mouths, and then we broke the plane, contaminating a faucet. So yeah, that's just not good. We just should just cut that right out. Thanks. So why is foam important? Foam is important because 1, it is part of your 5 senses, your visual experience with this product. Nobody wants just a flat skim on top of that beer and all the way to the brim. That's kind of lackluster. At Shorts, of course, we raise the bar, we set the industry standard. So we want to make sure that we're optimizing all the experiences. The second reason why it's important is because it also pushes the aroma of that beer out. And so when you're tasting and smelling and seeing things, your senses are stimulated and you're going to have a better experience. So we've got cider too, and that's a little different because it doesn't actually have a head on it, because cider is made from juice and not from sugar extracted from grain. And when you have sugar extracted from grain, there's a lot of more protein and other things in there that contribute to head or head retention on a beer. We just don't get that with cider. It doesn't mean that we can't follow the 2-finger pour rule with cider. We just have to leave that little space on the top of that glass for cider, regardless if it has a head on it or not, because we don't want that sloshing all over the top and dripping on the floor or getting on somebody's hands. So there you have it. All right, So appreciate your patience and your understanding and your willingness to continue to raise the bar here at Shorts. We are an industry leader. We have super high standards, and I honestly believe that the more we push ourselves to do awesome, enhance the consumer experience, is going to keep us going another 20 years, because we strive for excellence in perpetuity. That is leadership's role here, is to continue to push the boundaries of what we can have our teams do to optimize our customer experience. And we couldn't do it without you. And this will probably be the first of many videos to come about continuing how we do things at Shorts to make sure we're on the same page, because communication is the cause and solution to most of our problems. So thanks, everybody. Really appreciate your time and attention and absorbing all of this information, and more importantly, practicing it. This could have been a meeting, but it's not, and we're really excited to actually get this out in the world. So we've established a baseline and how we perpetuate the awesomosity and raise the bar here at Shorts Brewing Company. And I'm going to just enjoy this perfectly poured Shorts Brewing Huma Loopalicious India Pale Ale. Maybe the next video will be like talking about these beers, because after you've seen them, smelled them, and tasted them, learning about them, icing on the cake.